Greetings, everyone, students, parents, and educators alike. I'm Jason Edwards, creator of adventures, storyteller, and award-winning author of the best-selling series, Chronicles of the Monster Detective Agency. And I'm delighted to be here for your event. Congratulations on the occasion of your Literary Expo, and commendations especially to all of you young writers for your laudable literary achievements. As a writer myself, I know the daunting challenges you've faced in order to meet your goals, and I know what a grand triumph it is to overcome those obstacles. I'm privileged today to share with you an excerpt from the first volume in the Chronicles of the Monster Detective Agency, Will Allen and the Great Monster Detective. In the first chapter of this book, we're introduced to Will Allen, a smart but timid math nerd who tells the tale of how he came to be a fearless monster detective. Will's story begins when he deduces that he has a monster lurking in his room. Unable to confront this unseen terror himself, Will's search for help leads him on a series of misadventures, including a clash with his least favorite teacher, an earful of advice from his best friend, a scolding from his mother, and an unfortunate incident with an ice cream sundae. But his quest comes up empty until a mysterious business card appears in his knapsack, instructing him how to summon Bigelow Hawkins, the great monster detective. Will follows the instructions on the card, and in Chapter 3, they meet for the first time.
Will Allen and the Great Monster Detective.
Chapter 3. A Most Unusual Detective. "I knew you'd call," spoke a squeaky yet gravelly kind of voice. I turned around really fast, and there, standing next to my bed, was a very, very small person in a very, very big trench coat and bowler hat. Aside from a shiny gold badge on the ratty old coat, I couldn't see much. The coat covered everything right down to the ground, including his hands and feet, and a dark, fuzzy nose and a mess of scraggly brown hair were all that poked out from under the brim of the hat. "Are you the monster hunter?" I asked. "Detective," the gravelly voice replied, pointing proudly at his badge. "Monster Detective Bigelow J. Hawkins at your service." He looked more like a munchkin in disguise. "Aren't you a little short for a detective?" "Size isn't everything," Bigelow answered. "A little person can solve some really big cases. I myself have uncovered some of the biggest monsters there are." "And you can get rid of them?" "Once we find your monster, all we have to do is shine some light on it. Monsters hate light. That makes them less scary. And monsters that aren't scary don't have much reason to hang around." "Oh," I said. "Well, that sounds good enough for me. Let's get started." "We can't. Not yet." "What? Why not?" "It's not dark yet. I told you, monsters don't like the light. They won't come out until nighttime. That's when we'll uncover them." He then walked over to the light switch on my wall and turned it off. The room darkened somewhat, but light continued to filter in from my window, making my room glow eerily. What should we do until then?" I asked. "Well, for a start, let's discuss my fee," Bigelow answered. My face went sour. "Your fee?" I said rather crossly. "Your card said there wasn't any fee." "You must have read it wrong," Bigelow insisted. "Look again. It says, no fee unless successful." I took out the card, which I'd kept in my pocket since the bus ride from school, and I read it over. "Monster Detective Agency, Bigelow Hawkins, Detective First Class, specializing in identification and eradication of all types of ghouls and beasties. No fee, unless successful." "Huh, how about that?" I said. "Well, how much do you—" "Oh, I don't accept cash, but I believe you have an old teddy bear that you don't play with anymore. I'd like that." "You want to be paid with a toy?" Are you serious? That's my price, he answered firmly, for helping you solve your monster problem. Do you want my help or not? Like it or not, I needed help. I went to my toy chest and dug down to the bottom until I uncovered Teddy. He was a little ratty, but still soft and warm. But I don't want to give him up, I pouted. You don't play with him anymore. I know, but I still want him. I promise, he said in a voice that sounded much less gravelly, that I will take good care of him. I looked down at Teddy. I swear it almost looked like he smiled. Okay, I said, and handed him to Bigelow. At that very moment, the room turned dark. The cheerful blue color fled from my walls, turning them to shades of mud. What's happening? I asked, looking around nervously. They're coming. Night is falling. But how did it get dark so fast? Never mind. Let's just get ready. Where's your revealer? My what? Your revealer. You know, a flashlight that can shine some light on the monsters. I don't have one, I whispered nervously. Right then, it got much darker. The air around us grew thick with an inky mist, and the shadows from the trickle of light that dripped in through the window crawled all around us. But Bigelow ignored all that. Here, have this one, Bigelow whispered back, handing me a plain-looking red flashlight from behind his back. I turned it on to be sure it worked. Don't turn it on yet. You'll scare him off. I turned the flashlight off quickly. Sorry, I said quietly. What do we do now? We wait. So we sat there in the dark, as quiet as mice, for the better part of an hour. Finally, Bigelow got up, turned on his flashlight, and paced around the room. This isn't working, he muttered. Does that mean I get Teddy back? Bigelow turned to face me. There in the dark, he seemed much bigger than he had earlier. What we need is to set a trap. I already tried that, I told him. What did you use as bait? A brownie ice cream sundae. Bigelow seemed shocked. And it didn't work? No. Bigelow scratched his head, doing the same thinking scratch that Janine did all the time. I have an idea, he announced. Really? What? We need different bait. I think I know what will lure him out into the open. What? What do we need? Bigelow just looked at me. As he turned his head up, I thought for a second that I saw his eyes glow from under the bowler hat. Go sit in the middle of the room, he ordered. I instantly obeyed. My parents would have died of shock if they knew. Good. Now, whatever you hear, just stay where you are. Whatever you hear? What does that mean? But Bigelow just said, Hush now. So I sat there, alone in the middle of the room. I know it sounds crazy, but I could swear the walls were creeping closer, and as the shadows grew deeper, I shuddered from a sudden chill. Now what? I stuttered. Now, just listen. I listened, but the darkness seemed to be sucking all of the sound right out of the air. Just when it seemed as if nothing could break through, I heard a swooshing and rustling sound. Is that it? Is that the monster? Bigelow then did a strange thing. Even though it was very dark, he pulled out a magnifying glass, put it to his eye, and scanned the room. No, he finally answered. That's just the wind blowing through the trees. I listened harder. Deep in the mist, there was a creepy, creaking sound. That's it, isn't it? I whispered fiercely. Bigelow scanned again. No, he said. Just loose floorboards. The whooshing and creaking died away, and it grew very quiet. There, in the stillness, the shadows became like living things, closing in on me like hungry wolves. That's when I heard something else. Something that made goosebumps pop up on my skin. It was a scratching sound coming from under the bed. Then there was a gurgling, and I looked all around to see what it was. But all I saw was darkness. Bigelow, is that you? But Bigelow didn't answer. All I heard was the gurgling sound, which grew into a growl like that of an empty stomach. It seemed to be moving all around me, and it was getting closer.